This story from Vox.com came from one of my subscribers by the name of Joshua Hamilton. I want to thank you for sending this story. And this is one that really needs to come to light a lot more often in America because we are in very dangerous times, ladies and gentlemen. We have always been, in the black community for centuries, but many of the other communities are now feeling it. So now let's take a look at this article. White American men are a bigger domestic terrorist threat than Muslim foreigners. But Trump is so focused on a travel ban, keeping these folks out, and he's completely overlooking the terrorism that's going on in America. Since Trump took office, more Americans have been killed by white American men with no connection to Islam than by Muslim terrorists or foreigners. And it's a fact. This is all in American history, whether you like it or not. When Trump signed his since revised executive order banning people from 7 Muslim-majority countries from entering the United States, he claimed it was to protect Americans from radical Islamic terrorists. We don't want them here, Trump told reporters at the Pentagon, where he signed the order in January. But in the 8 months since Trump took office, more Americans have been killed in attacks by white American men with no connection to Islam by Muslim terrorists or foreigners. Radical Islamic terrorists inspired or directed by groups like ISIS and Al Qaeda do pose a clear threat to the U.S. There is no question about that. Before last night's deadly shooting in Las Vegas, the deadliest mass shooting in, I would say, the 21st century, because we know in U.S. history these things have occurred and they have occurred in much bigger numbers. U.S. history occurred in June 2016 when an ISIS-inspired man opened fire in a gay nightclub in Orlando, Florida, killing 49 people and wounding 53. An ISIS-linked militant have killed or injured dozens of people in countries like England, France, and Canada so far this year, including 2 women killed in a stabbing attack in Marseille, France, and several people injured in a car ramming attack in Edmonton, Canada, just this weekend. But here at home, the bigger threat has come from a very different kind of attacker, one with no ties to religion generally or Islamic extremism specifically. Here are just a few of the attacks that have occurred in 2017. Sunday night, a 64-year-old white man from Nevada opened fire on a crowd of more than 2,200 people at a country music festival in Las Vegas, killing, we know it's 59 and wounding 527. In August, a 20-year-old white Nazi sympathizer from Ohio sped his car into a crowd of anti-racist protesters in Charlottesville, Virginia, killing a woman and injuring at least 19 others. In June, a 66-year-old white man from Illinois shot at Republican Congress members during an early morning baseball practice, severely wounding several people, including Rep. Steve Scalise of Louisiana, the House of Representative Majority Whip. In March 2017, a 28-year-old white man from Baltimore traveled to New York City with the explicit aim of killing black men. He stabbed 66-year-old Timothy Kaufman to death and was charged with terrorism by New York state authorities. So that's amazing. Killing one man is terrorism. Spraying bullets and killing 59 people and injuring 527, that's not terrorism. Boy, I tell you, there is something seriously wrong with people in this country. In May, a 35-year-old white man from Oregon named Jeremy Joseph Christian began harassing Muslim teenagers on a train in Portland, telling them we need Americans here. Two men interceded. Christian then stabbed and killed both of them. Okay, in fact, between 2001 and 2015, more Americans were killed by homegrown right wing extremists than by Islamist terrorists, according to a study by New America, a nonpartisan think tank in Washington, D.C. And you can see clearly on this chart domestic terrorism incidents by type. And right wing just towers over everything else. Wow. Even the radical Islamic terrorists are usually U.S. citizens. In Trump's very first speech to Congress, he claimed that the vast majority of individuals convicted of terrorism and terrorism related offensive since 9/11 came here from outside of our country. But none of the perpetrators of the major U.S. terrorist attacks carried out in the name of Islam in the past 15 years have come from the nations on Trump's travel ban. In fact, the country home to the biggest number of terrorists have been carried out successfully attacks inside the U.S. is the U.S. itself. The San Bernardino shooting that killed 14 people was carried out by an American born U.S. citizen of Pakistan descent and a lawful permanent U.S. resident of Pakistan descent. The Orlando nightclub shooter who murdered 49 people was an American born U.S. citizen of Afghan descent. The Boston Marathon bombers, who identified as ethnic Chechen, came from U.S. from Kyrgyzstan and grew up in Cambridge, Massachusetts before carrying out attacks that left 3 dead. Faisal Hassad, the attempted Times Square bomber, was Pakistani American. Nidal Hassan, who killed 13 people at Fort Hood in 2009, was born in Virginia to Palestinian parents. As my colleague Zach Beauchamp was written, the average likelihood of an American being killed in a terrorist attack in which an immigrant participated in any given year is 1 in 3.6 million, even including the 9/11 attacks. The average American is more likely to die from their own clothing or a toddler with a gun than an immigrant terrorist. Wow. But we're not banning guns and t shirts from coming into the country. Adopting extremist views and committing horrendous acts of violence in the name of some righteous cause, be it religion or politics or just plain old hatred, isn't something that only Muslims or Arabs or immigrants or any other group of people do. It's something humans do. I disagree with that last line, but because history in America shows exactly where all of the mass killing and terrorist acts have primarily been coming from. And if you don't know, just go back and start in the 1600s and make your way all the way up to the 1700s, and you'll see where most of these attacks have come from. Plain and simple, it's a fact. Please leave your comment and subscribe. And if you can, donate to my channel, please do, and I will leave the link to this article in the description box. Peace, family.